Thank you, councillors. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. The Glenelg Shire respectfully acknowledge the Gunditjara, the Jali Jali and the Bowen Dick people as the traditional owners of the land that the Glenelg Shire encompasses. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging. We recognise that Aboriginal people have cared for and protected this land we call home since dreaming. Their connection to the land, animals, sea and waterways was and continues to be part of their being, and we thank them for their significant contribution to the life in Glenelg. To those present in the gallery today, by attending the public meeting of the Council, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. Council meetings may be live streamed and the Chief Executive Officer will enable a copy of the recording to the public. Do we have any apologies for this evening? There are none. Councillors, item 5 is the confirmation of the minutes. There's Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to move the recommendation that the minutes of the council meeting held on Tuesday the 22nd of October 2024 as circulated be confirmed.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor McDonald. You've heard it's been moved by Councillor Carr and seconded by Councillor McDonald. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, we'll move on to 5.2, which is the record of councillor briefings. There's a recommendation on page 4, please. Councillor McDonald.
I'll move the recommendation that Council receives the record of the councillor briefing held on the 22nd of October 2024.
Thank you. Councillor Carr. Thank you. Councillors, you've heard that the recommendation as tabled has been moved by Councillor McDonald and seconded by Councillor Carr. Those in favour? Carried. Councillors, item number 6 is the declaration of conflicts of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest to be declared this evening? Thank you. We'll mark that as nil. Councillors, we'll move on to the acknowledgement of previous councillors. Okay. Thank you, CEO. No problems. I have to watch my back, I do apologise. Okay. The first council meeting of the new council term is our opportunity to reflect on and recognise the service of those former councillors who either retired from their role, served part of the previous term, or were not returned at a recent election. There are 7 councillors covered by those criteria. The Glenelg Shire Council and its residents and ratepayers, thank you all for your service. My first presentation tonight are to 2 councillors who retired after many years of service, to both the Glenelg Shire Council and to one of the councils that were amalgamated to bring it into being as one. The first of these is Gilbert Wilson, who totaled 26 years of service. Gilbert served as in the former city of Portland from 1997 to 1991. And then after a break, he was elected to the Glenelg Shire Council from 2002 to 2024, deciding to retire at this year's election. He was mayor for three terms, 2006-7, 2009-10, 2011-12. And this followed his late father, Keith's footsteps in doing the same. Both Gilbert and Keith served more than 20 years each as a councillor. And what a mighty family effort that has been for the Wilson family throughout the Portland history of local government. Unfortunately, Gilbert is unable to be with us tonight. However, we will be giving him something, in particular, familiar in his chamber, his name plaque, with the record of service on the back. Please put your hands together. Thank you. Second plaque I'll be presenting this evening is to John Northcote, who totaled 17 years of service as councillor.
John, as we all know, hails from Merino and served on the former Shire of Glenelg from 1984 to 1992, including a term as Shire President in 1989 to 90. In 2008, he was elected on the Glenelg Shire Council, where he served 9 years, initially from 2008 to 2016, and again from 2023 to 2024. John was Mayor in 2013-14, and thus had the distinction of holding that role or equivalent at 2 councils. John, I invite you to come forward. Yes, I invite you to come forward and accept your plaque in recognition of your service. And here you are.
Well done.
Well done.
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to impart words of
You
wisdom?
can, if you wish to, Mr. Northcote.
Yes. No, that sounds pretty good, Mr. Northcote. I've certainly enjoyed my time with council, and I'm starting to slur and things are happening up here that are
That's okay.
not, so I can't put the words together, but certainly wish the newly elected council all the best for the next 4 years, and hope, well, with the Hamilton Spectator Partnership, there's all sorts of things looming out there in the near future, and certainly wish them the best. John, wish you the best for your tenure, and that's all I can say, really.
We've got Pepe to take.
Yes.
Another farmer on the team.
Well, you've looked forward to my epistles on agriculture, and,
Yes.
and we still want some rain, don't we?
You always want that.
You always want rain. We've got lots of summer crops in up there in the farm, and I've been tackled by a sheep this week, a lot of last slow. It's all part of the game. So David will miss my little chats.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. And it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge Helen Northcote, who has been an absolute trooper, making sure that John appears on time, not in his shearing clothes or his huge clothes, but always there. So Helen, you know, from all of us here at the Glenelg Shire, we've valued your friendship and thank you for all you've done in ensuring John undertakes his role as an elected member over those 17 years. So thank you very much. Okay, thank you. 2 councillors who sought re-election but were not returned will be presented with certificates recognising their service. Councillor Scott Martin served the 2020 to 2024 term, including a term as Mayor from 2022 to 2023, while Alistair McDonald served 5 years from the 2016 to 2020, and then again served again last year from 2023 to 2024. If you'd like to come forward, please, Scott and Alistair.
I'd just like to congratulate Karen and Michael and Robin for your re-election. These 4 gentlemen for being elected. You've got 4 years ahead of you. Not that much work. But you'll really enjoy being on Shire. Michael's been on before, but it's a great privilege to serve your community. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And you've got a fantastic staff. You've got a great CEO, she's been here 4 months, she's fitting in really well. Look after your CEO, look after your staff, and I'll look after you.
Yeah, just want to say congratulations to all elected. I should mention thank you to my partner Deb, my family Sam as well. So obviously there's being a mayor, as you know, during that period you're not home very often at night time, so there's a lot of missed nights of tucking in the little ones, so which you do try to give those back. I want to thank the executive staff as well. I know went through some big policy decisions, but we made some great headway in the last 4 years, so I want to thank you for all the work you guys have put in. Also to former CEOs Greg and Paul, thank you for looking after us. Again, the amount of funding we received around COVID time, that was, we were the envy of everyone in the southwest here, so I know we couldn't have done it without them. And also to former councillor, I know one's coming up in a second, but also to Anita and Chrissy, and especially thank you to Anita, who I guess had a policy to put the next generation forward, and I was lucky enough to put my hand up and do a bit of a stint underneath her and learn, and then obviously get the opportunity to become mayor, because that's, I guess, the pinnacle of the role, you lead the community. So humbly enough to recognise that and really cherish that going forward. So thank you all to involved, and thank you to the community as well for giving me the opportunity.
Okay. 3 other former councillors who served part of 2020-2024 term will also receive certificates recognising their service. Anita Rank served from 2012 to 2023, including a record 6 consecutive terms as mayor from 2016-17 to 2021-22. Chrissy Walker served from 2016 to 2023, including a term as Deputy Mayor in 2019-20. She was the first ever Deputy Mayor of the Glenelg Shire. Jaden Smith was the youngest person ever elected to the Glenelg Shire Council in 2020 and served from 2020 to 2023, including a term as Deputy Mayor in 22-23. I invite you to come forward, please, Jaden.
Madam Mayor, you'll have to graciously forgive me for not accepting my award. I can't come down there like some self-confessed public hero, which I'm not. I played an equal part with 6 other people in the 3 years of my term, and the faith that was lost in 2 CEOs, the staff, as well as the community. So, with that being said, I wish yourself, Deputy Mayor McDonald, and all the other councillors all the best on this journey to attempt to repair what's happened and create a more inclusive and better council for everybody. So don't take it personally, it's what I believe in. So Helen, all the best on your journey as well. And yeah, thank you to the staff for everything you did too.
Thank you, Jaden.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, we'll move forward on item number 8. Notices of motion, there are none this evening. And we'll move forward to item number 9, the management reports, the appointment of the committees, please. Mr Hall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report tonight provides a recommendation for the appointment of a number of external peak bodies, internal committees, and also calls for council endorsement of a refined council policy on committees.
Thank you, Mr Hall. Councillors, the agenda item, appointment of committees. Any questions in relation to this item, please?
Yes,
Councillor McDonald.
I'd just like to speak to the previous advisory committees that we've had before. Is there any intention to restore an Arts and Culture Advisory Committee?
Through the Mayor, I might defer to Ms Miller. She might be able to respond. We're not aware of any suggestions from a corporate side of things of reincarnating any advisory committees at this point. And Ms Miller, don't you want to add?
Thank you, Mr Hall. No, Councillor McDonald, we don't have any intention to do so. We've got great regional partnerships with South West Creative Victoria and also with our local user groups as well. So if that was something Council would want to pursue, to come through as a report or recommendation back to Council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Noski.
Well, while we're on the subject of committees and structures we used to have in the area, in my time on council and before my time on council, there was always tourism and economic development committees operating in conjunction with council. And given the discussion we had last week about the need to better manage our economic development promotion, I think I'd like to see a report brought back to council on perhaps a structure for a tourism and economic development committee as an advisory committee to council as well. Perhaps with some council and some community involvement.
Miller?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Noski, we have got a Future Portland project in the works at the moment with funding through RDV to look at the cumulative impact of the economic prosperity happening in the Portland area particularly, but across the Shire. I don't know if you would like to wait for the outcome of that funding application and where that lands before we proceed with a committee, as that might help you form up your thoughts around that matter.
I think I'd like to see...
Through the chair, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think I'd like to see well, I guess what I'd like to see is a report on how we might include a Tourism and Economic Development Committee into that process as part of that report. Yeah. Might or might not, just depending on what your recommendations are.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Noski. Just a question, Ms Miller, how long do we anticipate waiting for that funding announcement? Have we got any sort of guidelines around when that might happen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're hoping December with the project to be completed by June 30, 2025. December. That's when the funding ceases. Yep.
Soon.
And I'd also add we're working closely with One and Water on that project.
Sorry?
One and Water.
One
we're
and
working
Water,
with One and Water on that project as a shared project as well.
Thank you. Any further? Councillor Carr?
Madam Mayor, can we get the volume turned up a little bit?
Yeah, I know, it's very quiet. Yeah.
Is that possible? Thank you.
We'll see how we go. All right. Yeah. Councillor Pepper?
Through the chair, Madam Mayor, I was wanting to make an inquiry as to whether a report, a committee, advisory committee for the Caston Sale Yards.
Yep. Mr Hall or...
I can take the question,
Mr Moy?
Madam Mayor,
yeah.
Through you. Thank you, Councillor Pepper, for the question. So a community advisory committee or asset committee hasn't been planned for or contemplated yet for the Caston Sale Yards as part of any consideration of future advisory and community asset committees that can be considered moving forward, and we can do some further work around what that looks like, the structure and function of that committee in accordance with the Local Government Act and present options around that at a further council meeting.
Councillor Carr?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. This question relates to the external peak bodies, and I've noticed that there's a recommendation here to no longer be part of the Green Triangle Freight Action Plan Committee. And we get an understanding as to why that recommendation has been put forward to us, please.
Who would like to take that?
I'll respond. Thank you, Councillor Carr. Through the Mayor. So the recommendations presented this evening are after consultation with the executive team and officers around where we feel that councillors would have the best involvement in the peak bodies of the external committee space. And a significant amount of work has happened within that committee, and we see now a move into where executive would sit within that group itself and apply the pressures needed to make sure that the action plan is delivered upon, with a view that councillors being placed on other committees would get a better effect. But it's all up for discussion.
Thank you. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, you might be able to answer this one, actually. How many $1 million of funding has council been able to advocate for and get into council and roads within the Glenelg Shire through the Green Triangle Freight Action?
Yeah, the last audit we did was 280 million for the Green Triangle. The balance of that is basically in Victoria. Victoria certainly have the worst roads. South Australia tend to have good roads. You know, you need to remember that there's only 20 kilometres between Mount Gambier and the Victorian border, so most of that product comes straight over the border into Victoria. And, you know, let's not forget the 150 million that we got for the Maroona-Portland line, so that changes the dynamics for the region too. So, yep.
I've only got one other question.
Sorry?
So it's 280 million?
For roads, specifically.
Right. So, look, half a statement, half a question. Our constituents obviously expect council to advocate for road funding. Not a councillor here that didn't say that they wanted to fix the roads. If we're not part of the Green Triangle Freight Action Plan, what external body out of that list, CEO, is going to advocate and get funding, fix the roads in Glenelg Shire?
Glenelg's certainly been a leader on the Green Triangle Freight Action Committee because we are the funnel to the ports. So we have advocated very strongly over many years now, 18 years. So, you know, it takes time to build up that. Recognition in the Victorian Freight Plan and the Princess Highway Strategy at a Commonwealth level, the Rossi program, Roads of Significance, all came out of the Green Triangle strategy and discussions that we've had. So.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I think the second part of the question was, if we don't have the Green Triangle Freight Action Plan listed, which it isn't in the recommendation, which one of those other external bodies are going to be used as an enabler to get funding to fix the roads?
There's no other external body that works on a regional level that's recognised with that branding. So it's an important committee, and it also is due for review. So it's an important. Look, we use an evidence-based methodology. So we go to all the key stakeholders, and they sit on the committee as well. So yeah, it's complex, but I'm happy to speak further about it at another time.
I'm happy to add if I can. So through the Mayor. So the recommendation from officers is that the Director of Infrastructure Services sits on that group. And additionally, the executive members meet with the Department of Transport and Planning regularly to lobby them to ensure that we fit onto their maintenance schedule. That relationship is pretty new in that they've had some change at their executive level following a restructure. And as we work through that process, we're also ensuring that we can be on their list. And disappointingly in 25-26, despite quite a lot of fanfare about maintenance budgets going into the roads, the Glenelg Shire is not one of the areas that has been selected based on their data around how many vehicles are using the roads and the data that they are gathering themselves rather than data that we are providing to them. And we've voiced that disquiet, as have other regional councils near us who have also not made that list and are deeply disappointed about it. And that piece of advocacy is being driven through the South West Victoria Alliance, of which your Mayor is a member.
Yep. Councillor Noski.
I'd just certainly add my voice to the call for us to still be involved in that group, because I think that this Shire's economy lives and dies on transport links, and the safety of our road users lives and dies on the damage that the transport industry does to our roads. And I think it's important that we have the ability at a political level as well as an officer level to advocate for what we know needs to be done when it needs to be done. But the other thing that talking about things changing quickly is last Tuesday at the Great South West Council sessions, there was a lot of talk about dramatic changes to the government's impact assessment on sea level rises and the impact that's having on planning across the whole region. And I think given that, I believe there's a Victorian Coastal Council, which I think actually Lynn Murrell, when he wasn't a councillor, has been heavily involved in from this area, but I suspect, so I'm certainly interested in receiving a report back from officers at the next meeting or the one after on what that Coastal Council does and whether or not it's appropriate for Glenelg Shire to be represented on that as well.
Thank you, Councillor Noski.
Could I add something? Sorry.
Sorry.
Through the Mayor. The intention is that we'll bring forward an update to councillors in March time to talk around memberships more broadly. Would it be acceptable not to bring a separate report but to bring it as part of that package of work?
That'd be fine. I think basically what we're saying is that that given the list that was put forward, that there seems to be a lot of options that councillors would certainly like to investigate for other involvement going forward.
Councillor Carr. Sorry. Mr Holt.
Madam Mayor, if I just may, there's been a couple of discussions with councillors about calling for reports. Call for report would need to be through a notice of motion, which has its own process under the governance rules. General discussion or questions calling for a report would not actually have any validity under the current arrangement. There would need to be a resolution, or if it's something new that's, as I said, it would need a notice of motion to be considered.
Councillor Carr.
Yeah, Madam Mayor. Look, last week councillors met with the traditional owner groups last Friday. We had a fantastic presentation from the three CEOs there and a beautiful welcome from Arnie Hillary. Wondering what would be involved if we were to set up an Aboriginal working group.
I think it's got merit. Yep. Okay, I think that's a good point. I think that, we've been waiting for any discussion around the partnership for some years now, so I think that, we need to lead on this, and I think it's a whole of council discussion on whether it's a working group or something like that. Yeah. On a regular basis. Okay. Any other comments? Questions? And there's a motion on page 6 there, Councillor Carr.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, I think I've captured everything that everyone said. The motion's a little bit different to the recommendation. So I would like to move that Council 1 appoints representation to the following external peak bodies for the 24 to 28 term of this council. Royal Greater Alliance, Councillor Carr, proxy being Councillor Stevens. Committees for Portland, be the Mayor of the day and the CEO, and the proxy for the Mayor being the Deputy Mayor. Southwest Alliance Incorporated, Mayor and CEO, proxy for the mayor being the deputy mayor. Great Ocean Road Regional Tourism, being the CEO. Municipal Association of Victoria being the mayor and the proxy being the deputy mayor. Green Triangle Freight Action Plan Committee, I'd like to add that one back in. Councillor Karen Stevens and the CEO or their delegate. Proxy for the mayor being the deputy mayor. Timber Towns Victoria, Councillor Karen Stevens and CEO/delegate, with the proxy being the mayor or deputy mayor. National Timber Council, Councillor Karen Stevens. Rural Council of Victoria, Councillor Karen Stevens, with the proxy being the mayor or deputy mayor. That's dot point 1. Dot point 2. Appoints representation to the following internal committees for the 2024 to 28 term of this council. Audit and Risk Committee, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Councillor Jowley. CEO Employment and Remuneration Committee, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and all councillors. Probably could just go all councillors on that one.
All councillors, yeah.
3, the council establishes the following working groups with the terms of reference to be submitted to council on or before the 25th of February 2025. Glenelg Aboriginal Working Group. 4, council requests reports on the establishment of the following internal advisory committees on or before the 25th of February 2025. They are Building Assets Committee, Aston Saleyards Committee, Arts and Culture Committee, Tourism and Economic Development Committee. 5, council requests a report on membership to the Victorian Coastal Council. Is that right, Mike? With a report to council on or before the 25th of February 2025. That makes sense.
You might make the March meeting that Jane said the reports were coming through.
Reports.
We wait a month.
Okay, accept the reports.
Can accept recommendations. They might not get seconded.
Right. No.
So the table is as motion.
Seconded.
Okay.
The motion is as table.
Seconded.
Councillor Carr,
Yes.
dot point 3 on tonight's agenda, I note that council adopts the revised council policy, council committees, and there's an item there. Are we not? Not included.
Oh, that'll be dot point 7.
What's that?
That'll be dot point 7.
Excuse me, Madam
I
Mayor.
don't know. Sorry.
I didn't hear the question.
There's a council policy notation there, Madam CEO, to adopt the policy. So we need the policy adopted, the revised policy.
I would seek that to be part of the recommendation. Yeah.
Document.
Yes. Sorry.
I'm seeking.
I'll make it dot point 6.
I'm seeking that the policy, the revised policy, also be adopted, Councillor Carr.
Adopts the revised council policy, council CPO, Corps, GE 010. Pick up. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Councillors, there's a motion that's been moved by Councillor Carr. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Noski. Did you want to speak to the motion?
I think it's pretty straightforward, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, I think it's been covered in the discussion.
Sorry?
Everything's been covered in the discussion. I don't think we need to add any more.
Is there any possibility I could just seek some clarification? Was it February council meeting that you're seeking those reports, or?
Yes, 25th.
We do. Would you like to do March?
They're not my recommendations.
No.
I'm just very conscious of the summer holiday period and the amount of work that would be involved to get them back to council in a state for practical decision making at that time.
Given the December, January, the CEO is suggesting that given the December, January holiday period, if we could do it at the end of March, Councillor Carr?
I'd like to move an amendment to my motion. Please, Madam Mayor, based on the feedback. And it would be to change it to the 4th Tuesday
in March, whatever that might be.
2025, wherever
same
I've
date.
written 25th of February 2025.
I'm happy with the amendment.
Happy with the amendment?
Yeah.
As councillors, are you clear on the motion before you?
Yep.
Any questions? Is there anybody that wishes to speak against the motion? No? Oh,
Sorry. Could you just check with Hall to make sure that that's all? Okay.
Mr. Hall, I need to check with you. Is this recommendation?
Madam Mayor, from a governance point of view, I have grave concerns with the motion that's actually been put forward. The governance rules highlight where the requirements to bring a notice of motion before council for such matters. I think amending a recommendation so substantially in this case does not comply with the governance rules in my view. We do have a municipal monitor present. I wouldn't mind having a moment to confer with the municipal monitor and get another view on that matter, if I may.
Mr. Hall, your suggestion would be that the council is fine to move the motion between the committees and the appointments to the committees. It's the reports that you believe should go to a notice of motion for the next council meeting.
Correct, Madam Mayor. The councillors have introduced some matters that are not the subject of the report in question. Subsequently, there is certainly some requirements in the governance rules that require notice of motion processes to be considered before they can be brought before council.
Let me concur with the CEO. What's your understanding of the motion?
About committees.
Yeah, but it is also.
Yeah, but that's about committees. About what committees we have.
That would be fine.
Give us some time to do
Yeah.
At least we've got reports.
You can get
Yeah, we do that. Yeah. Councillors, concurring with the CEO, we're of the opinion that the items tabled on tonight's agenda in 1, 2 and the actual adoption of the revised policy would suit the governance rules, and that the further notations of calling for reports, Councillor Carr, could be a notice of motion at the December meeting in a couple of weeks, if you would be happy to do that, please.
I am happy to do that, Madam Mayor. So I'll move third amendment to the motion to remove dot points 3, 4 and 5 from the original motion.
The original motion. So, okay, so it's the appointment of the external peak bodies as read, and the appointments of representation on the internal committees as read, and then the adoption of the revised council policy as tabled. Councillor Noski?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Yeah.
Everybody clear on that, the process we're going to use? Any questions? Any objections? If not, I'll call for the vote. It's been moved by Councillor Carr and second by Councillor Noski. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Where are we? Councillors, 9.2 is the news lease between the Glenelg Shire Council and Anthony R. Bennett, known as Tony. There's a recommendation there on page 10 for tonight's meeting. Councillor Robin MacDonald.
Thank you, through the Mayor. I'll move the recommendation that Council approves a new 2.5-year lease with 2 times 3-year extension options with Anthony R. Bennett for Portland Aerodrome Section A and C at 1260 Bridgewater Lakes Road, Cashmore. And 2, sets the rental figure at $3,795, including GST per annum, with rent to be adjusted annually in accordance with the March quarter all-group CPI figure for Melbourne. And 3, authorises the Director of Corporate Services to finalise and sign all documents relating to the proposed lease in Part 1 of this resolution.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. A seconder for the motion? Councillor Angelino. Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It seems to be a partnership which is working, has been working well over some years, and that section that I see on the plans doesn't seem to inhibit the use of the aerodrome to any extent. So I think the continued partnership and the increase in rental is a benefit to our council moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Is there any further comments, Councillor Angelino?
No, Madam Mayor.
Any objection to the motion as tabled? It's been moved by Councillor MacDonald and seconded by Councillor Angelino. Those in favour? Carried. Right. Councillors, we'll move on to the 9.3, which is the Council Plan Year 4 first quarter performance report. Ms Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the first quarter report for Year 4. Councillors, I'll just draw your attention to 3 items I'd just like to highlight in the report. On page 14, or add some context to, on page 14, there's some commentary there around drought assistance. Just since we obviously do the reporting on this, there's movement in the sector. There's a state government announcement of $13 million for drought support, and council officers are on the regional committee for sharing that information out and supporting farmers in our shire. So there's some activity with that one. On page 21, I'll just scroll down. There is a action working with our educational partners in regards to early years education and care workforce. I attended a meeting with Southwest TAFE, my apologies, last week, and I'm pleased to advise that for 2025 there are 103 applicants into Certificate 3 across the Southwest, with 19 of those in the Portland area. So that's across the vocational education and training and school-based traineeship. So that's a really great improvement, great numbers for 2025. And the final thing is on page 23, which refers to the Municipal Health and Wellbeing Plan. We had planned to come back to you in November with an update on those actions, but given the work on the council plan and the plan to integrate those 2 plans, we would like to close out the actions in June 2025 in line with the final quarter of the council plan, so they neatly tie in together. So, Madam Mayor, happy to pass over for other further comments and questions.
Questions, councillors? Councillor Carr.
Madam Mayor, thanks, Mr. Lyon. All the infrastructure questions to start with. I'll start off with 2. Can we get an update on our priority project for the, I'll call it basketball stadium, please?
Okay. Moy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, in response to Councillor Carr's question, so the Portland multi-purpose facility does remain a priority project for council. There had been previous funding applications going back a couple of years, an application in 2022 through the Building Better Regions Fund, which was unsuccessful for a full upgrade and redevelopment of that facility. More recently, officers have been working through the current Regional Community Infrastructure Fund, reviewing upcoming opportunities that are available at the moment to continue to look at that project for further planning to undertake some further work to look at upgrade and redevelopment or refurbishment options there, which will be taken forward moving into the new year. So the project does remain a priority for council. Thank you.
Councillor Carr.
The resurfacing of Betty Street / Hanlon Parade, can we get an update on that, please?
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Mr Wayne.
Again, through you, Madam Mayor, thank you, Councillor Carr. So the Benting Street rehabilitation is a project that Council has funding for. Officers are currently going through a tender process and a tender evaluation, a report scheduled to be presented to the December Council meeting for consideration of that contract, with works to then continue or commence moving into the new year.
Thank you, Mr Wayne. Any further questions, councillors?
Just got one.
Councillor McDonald.
Ms Miller, if I could just ask you that training for the early years students through TAFE, how long does that take for those people to be qualified?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It really is, it depends if they're doing the school-based traineeship, that can be through year 11 and 12, so they do that as part of their year 11 and 12 studies. And then with the Certificate 3, it's 12 months. Yeah.
How many were registered?
103 across the southwest Victorian region, and 19 in the Portland area, which is close to 20%, which is great.
Positive. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Councillor Carr.
No, you go.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, really for Ms Miller as well. Looking in the tourism section and at our iconic events, could we please get an update on Portland and the reasons why the date has been changed away from the long weekend, please?
Thank you, Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Hooked on Portland date for 2025 has moved for a variety of reasons. The contractor scheduling, I guess the bump in, is what you would call it with events, and the Evasion Day events that occur on the foreshore make that really difficult this year to work through with both parties. There was additional contractor costs with having it on the long weekend, so we couldn't deliver the event within budget. We also had feedback from families that attending on the long weekend right before the resumption of school was not ideal, and they would prefer it the weekend before. And also we've got a cruise ship arriving on the 18th of January, so that will support that event as well. And in discussions with the tourism and events team, spreading the visitation over 2 weekends where the long weekend is already popular and successful with visitation, and extending that, I guess, spend and reach over 2 weekends was seen as more optimal.
Thank you. The consultation, Ms Miller, with the community groups that's been undertaken, are you able to update Council on what consultation did take place?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not at this time. I'll have to take that on notice and consult with the tourism team.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Noski.
There's a mention on page 14 about Council working with Great South West Region Alliance councils to attract skilled refugees into the region as workers. Can I ask, is Glenelg Shire registered as a refugee welcome zone? Because I know the City of Warrnambool is, but I don't know of any others.
Thank you, Councillor Noski. Ms Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, you're testing me, Councillor Noski, under the Dharma. I have not looked at that for a couple of months. I don't know if you're aware of that, Madam Mayor.
No. Look, we work through the Great South Coast Leadership Group. They run the school migration program. From what I still understand, that they're still the one. Warrnambool have a Dharma agreement. I mean, obviously with Midfield Meets in Warrnambool. Yep. I'm not aware of any of the other councils across the southwest here, Councillor Noski, that also have a Dharma agreement. I don't believe that Glenelg does. It's not something that I've ever been aware of for this council.
I think registering as a refugee welcome zone is a separate exercise in itself, but it may well help us attract people under a Dharma agreement.
Yeah, I think that's probably something we look at, but that's what's in the plan for the time being, and that's what council has done. There certainly has been a lot of work done with skilled migration over the last 3 to 4 years.
Yep. And one more thing, I think it's on page 29, there's a thing about plans for the smaller communities.
Yeah.
It mentions that in this quarter we're finalising the plan for Narrawong, and I think excuse me if I...
The structure plans?
Structure plans.
Yes.
So the plan in the 4-year plan was for structure plans for Dartmoor, Haywood, Narrawong, Nelson.
And Elstree, yes.
Yep.
Yep.
And the plan in this quarter was to complete the Narrawong and Dutton Way structure plans. Just as an update of a new councillor, have we done the plans for Dartmoor, Haywood, Nelson before this?
Ms Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just preface my response that those structure plans are always attached to funding opportunities as well, because they're quite extensive processes, and we use consultants to support us with those. In regards to the Narrawong, Dutton Way, Alistree, there was consultation earlier this year with the community on that plan. We've been working with the technical reference group, which includes DECA, DTP, GM TOEIC and some other members, to work through the detail on that plan to come out for second phase exhibition, which we are not ready to do at this stage. We've got to land on a position that all parties are comfortable with.
Yeah.
So we're hoping in early 2025 we can do second phase exhibition for that one. In regards to Dartmoor and Haywood, we have got a flood study that we've been working on that was funded through the federal government. I'm hoping to bring that to council in December.
And Nelson?
That's the Nelson Dartmoor.
Right.
Yeah, flood study. Yeah.
But not so structure plans in the council plan, are they different things?
There hasn't been progress on a structure plan for Nelson and Dartmoor, but there has been work on the flood study. Yeah, did you want to add something?
Yeah.
If I may add to this, so the recommendations for the structure plans there emanates out of the planning scheme review. It's idealistic, and they will apply for structure plans when relevant funding becomes apparent. So in the answer to your question, Councillor Noski, no, those plans have not yet commenced. They are awaiting a funding opportunity to enable them to take the next step. The Narrawong and Dutton Way one, there was a funding opportunity within the last 2 years around some sites, which is why those ones are the current structure plans that we're working on. We've previously undertaken structure plans on Bridgewater and Casterton.
Right. So that's a carry through the next 4-year plan.
I'll just, the CEO might just make a comment on some of the training we might be doing, and that might just fulfil that question around structure plans. CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to provide, so we'll be doing some land use training as part of the broader induction process, and also there's been a request for a kind of statutory planning, how do councillors fit into that process, piece of update work as well, which we'll be working on to get to you in the new year, so we can talk through what's on the books, what we hope to have on the books, and also how and when councillors get involved in those processes, so that we can get the feedback about what we've delivered and what we're hoping to deliver. There's also obviously the council plan and what we would like to place into the next council plan to push forward the strategic planning work into the next period.
Thanks.
Thanks, CEO. Any further questions on the 4-year first quarter report for the council plan?
I've got a question on page, through you, Madam Mayor. On page 13, it mentions about the working regionally on the green waste bins.
Sorry, what was that? You have to talk up.
So working regionally on curbside reforms for the green waste bins.
Oh, yes, yes.
I'd just like to get an update on where we are with that, because I see it's been delayed.
Mr Moyne.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the question, Councillor Jowett. Councillor Jowett, officers have been working on Council's waste transition plans and in response to state government directions through Recycling Victoria for green waste transition and also curbside glass. We're looking to consider the options and the green waste transition as part of the upcoming program and provide a briefing to councillors on that potential transition and financial implications of the transition itself. There has been some recent consultation undertaken through Recycling Victoria, and we're awaiting also the direction and outcomes of that consultation in terms of the mandatory implementation of that transition itself. So work has been undertaken and will continue moving into the new year.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Mr Moyne. Any further question?
Thank you.
No? Councillor Noski.
Just one final question. In the financial section, the year-to-date lists a significant increase in capital grants in the financial performance. Are they grants that are confirmed for projects not yet done, presumably?
You got a page, perhaps?
Yes. Where are you
page.
referring
Okay,
to?
hang on. Yep, page 41. We list capital grants at 9.517 million against a budget of 3.06 for the year. Are they new announcements of grants in this
No, through the chair, they're simply the carry forward grants from the previous year.
Yes, yes.
There's no been new announcement of grants.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mr Hall. Any further questions, councillors? There is a recommendation on page 12. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you. Through the Chair, I'd like to move the recommendation that Council receives the Glenelg Shire Council Plan First Quarter Performance Report for Year 4 of the 2021-25 Council Plan and approves the document for publication.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. A seconder, please, Councillor. Councillor Jarlett. Thank you. Is anybody against the motion? No? Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to say, coming in 12 months ago, the council plan to me seemed like a very ambitious plan. It's incredible how much says initiative complete in the right-hand column. I'd like to congratulate the staff on that. I know the early learning years issue is something that a lot of the community are struggling with, and I know that Ms Miller and her team have been working incredibly hard to work with to deal with all of those issues involved in that, and the number one thing is getting staff on the ground. Otherwise, that is never going to change. So, congratulations to you, Ms Miller, and the announcement today that we've actually got people coming to TAFE to train to fulfil those spots is great news. But yes, it's 3 quarters to go, and there's a lot that's already been achieved. So, I'd like to say well done to the staff.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jarlett.
I think Councillor McDonald covered it quite well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? CEO, I'd just like you to pass on to the organisation our thanks. It's a really great report and lots has been achieved in a very short space of time. So thank you for your diligence, and it's a great report. Well done. Councillors, the recommendation has been moved by Councillor McDonald and seconded by Councillor Jarlett. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. We shall move on to item 9.4, which is the Council confidentiality policy. Mr Holt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I may defer to the Executive Manager of Governance, Mr Jackson, to speak to this matter, please.
Thank you, Mr Holt. Mr Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council's confidentiality policy has been developed in response to a recommendation from the Municipal Monitors report. It outlines the classification of documents that should be managed securely as a matter of good governance. It provides description in line with Local Government Act 2020 of items that should be considered confidential, and outlines processes for councillors when handling confidential or council in confidence information.
Thank you, Mr Jackson. Councillors, any questions in relation to the new council confidentiality policy? I'd like to note, councillors, that this was a recommendation from the Monitor's report, and I believe we're the first council in the state to have a confidentiality report, and I believe it may become mandatory within the next few years, but let's wait and watch this space. Councillors, any comments, any questions?
Move the recommendation.
Sorry?
Move the recommendation.
You can move the recommendation, Councillor Noski.
Move the recommendation that Council adopts the Council confidentiality policy CPO-CORPS-GE-015. I'm going to have to blow my screen up a bit, sorry. In its entirety.
Thank you, Councillor Noski. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Angelino. Councillor Noski, would you like to speak to the...
I don't think it needs...
It doesn't need it?
Comment. It's a sensible policy on a matter that we all should take very seriously.
Thank you, Councillor Noski. Councillor Angelino?
No, we've had lots of discussion and it's all been accepted well by the...
well done. Thank you. Councillors, it's been moved by Councillor Noski and second by Councillor Angelino. Those in favour? Carried. Councillors, will move to item 9.5, which is the Councillors' Quarterly Expenditure Report. This is quite straightforward. Councillor Carr.
I'm happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Carr.
The recommendation the Council receives the Councillors' Quarterly Expenditure Report for the period 1 July 2024 to 30th of September 2024.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald.
Second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Don't wish to speak to it, Councillor Carr?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, I think it's good that we table this in open council. It demonstrates transparency
Thank you.
for the constituents which we serve.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you,
Fine. The recommendation as tabled on page 16, councillors, has been moved by Councillor Carr and second by Councillor McDonald. Those in favour? Carried. Councillors, we'll move on to 9.6, which is the Audit and Risk Committee minutes. Mr Hall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As most councillors will be aware, the Audit and Risk fulfils an important obligation for council in discharging its duties. As part of that requirement, the minutes of the most recent meeting in September and the unscheduled Audit and Risk meeting in October are provided for council consideration. Also attached is the self-assessment survey. A requirement of the Charter is the committee undertakes self-assessment on its own performance and the information that's provided. And finally, in accordance with the Act, the biannual report for the Audit and Risk is also presented to the council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Hall. Councillors, all the information is there. Any questions, please? Or is there a mover for the recommendation as tabled on page 19? Councillor Carr.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation in its entirety on page 19.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. And a seconder, please. Councillor McDonald. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, there is a lot in it, and there's been a lot of work done by this council, and the Audit and Risk Committee and the agenda items demonstrate the layers of governance and auditing that is done by staff. I will probably point out the self-assessment survey. I think it's a compliment if someone says that the papers are too detailed. I think that seems to be the comment that sticks out to me. So well done to all those that put information into the Audit and Risk Committee.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald, any comments?
I'd just like to thank them for getting that in by the due date. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know there was some issues with evaluations required, etc. So
Yep, that's fine. Thank you, councillors. The motion as detailed on page 19 was moved by Councillor Carr and second by Councillor McDonald. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. We'll move on to the oath and affirmations of the new councillors. Page 23, councillors. Come on. Is there a mover?
Yeah, I'm happy to move.
Oh.
You happy to move? Thank you, Councillor Carr.
I'll read it out. The Council 1. Notes the tabling of the oaths and affirmations of office made by councillors before the Chief Executive Officer, and 2. Records the oath and affirmations of office in the minutes of this meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Pepper, second?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Carr, can I straight for procedural?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved by Councillor Carr and second by Councillor Pepper. Those in favour? Carried. Councillors, urgent business. There's no urgent business tonight. Number 11 is question time. Questions taken on notice at the previous meeting. There are none. And questions from members of the gallery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We had 3 questions from members of the community. Rab and David Headlam. Unfortunately, they were received late, so in accordance with our governance rules, they won't be covered in this meeting, but we've asked whether they would like them to be covered in the December meeting.
Thank you, Madam CEO. And to the community, that's just a reminder to the community members that questions are required by 12 noon on the Monday before the council meeting, please. And then they are to be included in this month's that month's meeting. So just a reminder to the community that they are to be in by 12 noon on the Monday prior to the council meeting. Given that there's no questions from members of the community councillors, I move to close the meeting. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you to staff. Thank you, Madam CEO. Thank you all.